Welcome back to Hopetales. Today, we bring you the incredible story of Maya, a 15-year-old girl terrified of flying. Yet her courage in mid-air would save an entire plane. The hum of the engines was supposed to soothe Maya, but it didn't. She had never flown before, and every vibration of Flight 412 felt amplified in her chest. The hum, the low rumble of the cabin, the faint squeak of the landing gear retracting, it all combined into a symphony of panic. She hugged her backpack tightly, her knuckles white, and stared out the window, her eyes fixed on the clouds rushing past. Beside her, her mother whispered, "It's okay, Maya, just breathe." But Maya's breaths were shallow, rapid, a tremor running through her body. Flying was not just scary, it was terrifying. Every story of turbulence, every tale of emergencies she had heard haunted her. "Flight attendants, please take your seats," the PA voice called. The overhead bins clicked shut and the passengers adjusted. A few nervous chuckles floated through the cabin. But Maya couldn't laugh. Her stomach twisted. She felt small, exposed, and completely out of control. The plane climbed higher, above 30,000 feet. Clouds swirled outside the window like white oceans. Maya closed her eyes and tried to think of anything else. Music, books, her friends, but she couldn't. The fear anchored her. Suddenly, the aircraft shuddered slightly. "A minor turbulence. Just a little bump," her mother said. But the shudder wasn't minor. It rolled through the cabin, shaking the overhead bins. Drinks jostled. A toddler screamed. Maya gripped her seat. And then she noticed it. Something wasn't right. It was subtle at first, a soft vibration, almost imperceptible. But it wasn't in rhythm with the engines. It pulsed unevenly under her feet. Maya's instincts, honed from hours of watching aviation documentaries with her father, told her this was no ordinary turbulence. She looked around. No one else seemed to notice. The passengers were chatting, sipping coffee, staring at screens. The flight attendants moved through the aisles, calm and smiling. But Maya could feel the aircraft fighting something hidden. Her pulse quickened. She tried to call her mother's attention, but the words stuck in her throat. She remembered her father's advice. Notice details no one else sees. It might matter. Then she saw it, a small wisp of smoke near the back galley, almost invisible, curling against the cabin wall. She blinked, rubbed her eyes. Maybe she was imagining it. But no. The smell reached her. Faint, metallic, a whisper of burning. Panic surged through her. She had to tell someone. She jumped from her seat, moving toward the aisle. Her mother grabbed her hand, concern etched across her face. "Maya, wait. I saw it. Something's wrong!" Maya shouted, her voice trembling. Flight attendant Claire noticed her outburst. "What is it, miss?" Maya pointed toward the rear. "Smoke. It's coming from the galley. Something's burning." Claire's eyes widened. She quickly grabbed the intercom. "Cabin crew, check the rear galley immediately." The cabin's atmosphere shifted. Passengers turned, some murmuring, others anxious. Claire crouched, inspecting the galley, and found a minor electrical spark in a service panel. Nothing catastrophic yet, but enough to start a fire if left unchecked. Maya's heart raced. Her fear mingled with something strange, a spark of courage. She hadn't expected to be brave, but suddenly, she knew she had to do more. The captain's voice came over the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Reynolds. We're experiencing a minor technical issue. Cabin crew will handle it. Please remain calm." Maya knew calm wasn't enough. The spark could escalate mid-flight, and the smoke could trigger an electrical cascade. She needed to get the captain's attention, but how? The intercom was locked for passengers. Phones were useless at this altitude. But she noticed the jump seat near the galley. If she could reach the cockpit door, maybe she could signal the captain visually. Her pulse pounded. She moved quickly, her small frame weaving past seats, holding tightly to her mother's hand when she hesitated. Claire stepped aside, recognizing her urgency. "Cabin crew, please stand by," she said, almost bewildered by the girl's determination. Maya reached the cockpit door. The captain's silhouette was visible through the small window. She rapped lightly, then harder. The captain, startled, opened the door slightly. "Sir," Maya shouted. "There's smoke. Electrical galley panel. It could catch fire." Captain Reynolds blinked, assessing her frantic face. A 15-year-old girl terrified of flying was pointing to a very specific problem, something the cockpit instruments hadn't flagged yet. "Are you sure?" he asked cautiously. "Yes, please." "I saw it," Maya pleaded. "It's not normal." There was a tense silence. The captain glanced at his co-pilot, then nodded. "Show me exactly what you mean." Maya's knowledge, her attention to detail, her observation of subtle vibrations, and the faint smell of burning, all combined. The captain allowed her to guide him to the galley panel via the small cockpit camera. Sure enough, tiny sparks, faint smoke, a faulty service panel. The captain quickly took control. The co-pilot engaged emergency procedures. Cabin crew moved passengers back slightly. Sparks were suppressed. Smoke vented safely. The aircraft stabilized. Maya, still trembling, felt relief wash over her, but also disbelief. She had saved the flight despite being terrified of flying. Her courage hadn't erased her fear, but it had channeled it into action. Captain Reynolds smiled faintly, looking at the girl through the cockpit window. "You've got sharp eyes. You just helped us prevent a disaster." Maya blinked. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a frightened girl who had done something extraordinary. The plane continued on its route, and for the first time, Maya allowed herself to breathe normally. But the flight was far from over. She knew this was only the beginning. Storm clouds lay ahead. Turbulence might worsen, and Flight 412 still had hours before it could land safely. And somehow, deep down, Maya understood one thing. Fear was no longer her enemy. It was her signal, her guide, and today it had made her a hero. The cabin felt calmer after the crew handled the smoking panel, but inside Maya, the storm hadn't settled. She sat quietly, her hands still trembling. Her mother squeezed her shoulder gently, whispering, "You did something brave, Maya." But Maya didn't feel brave. She felt uneasy, because something still felt wrong. The plane leveled off at 34,000 feet, sunlight pouring through the windows and washing the cabin in a warm glow. Yet Maya sensed a vibration, subtle, uneven, almost like a heartbeat buried in the metal bones of the aircraft. It wasn't the same as before. It was new, rhythmic, pulsing. She leaned closer to the window, watching the wing. The engines looked stable. Nothing seemed abnormal, but she knew what she felt. Passengers began relaxing again, headphones on, trays down, kids watching cartoons. The calmness almost made her doubt herself. Maybe it's just my fear, she thought. Maybe I'm overthinking. But she had learned in Part 1 that ignoring her instincts was dangerous. The captain's voice came over the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, the issue in the galley has been controlled. We will continue monitoring our systems. Please enjoy your flight." Passengers clapped lightly. Maya didn't. She kept listening, really listening. And then she heard it, a faint hum, followed by a tiny crackling sound from beneath the floor panel. Her heart dropped. She remembered her father teaching her something strange once. Planes talk, Maya, not with words but with sounds. And when something sounds different, it usually means something is different. She pressed her ear to the armrest, ignoring the odd looks a nearby passenger gave her. The sound grew louder, like a small motor trying and failing to start. Then the captain spoke again, but this time his voice was slightly tense. "Cabin crew, please secure the galley areas and check all electrical compartments again." The cabin crew shifted, exchanging glances. They knew the captain wouldn't say that twice unless he suspected a bigger problem. Maya's pulse spiked. Something deeper was happening, not just a smoking panel. She unbuckled quickly. "Maya?" her mother whispered. "I need to check something," Maya said. "Please trust me." Before her mother could respond, Maya slipped into the aisle. She followed the sound toward the rear of the plane. The flight attendant, Claire, saw her approaching and frowned gently. "Maya, sweetie, you already helped us once. You should rest now." "I know," Maya replied, her voice shaking. "But something's still wrong." Claire hesitated. She could see the intensity in Maya's eyes. This wasn't a child panicking. This was someone who felt something the adults didn't. Maya crouched near the floor panel again, close to the spot where she first smelled smoke. The vibrating hum grew stronger, almost like pressure building. "What are you hearing?" Claire asked, kneeling beside her. "A relay." "Trying to restart." Again and again, Maya said. Something electrical didn't shut down properly. Claire's eyes widened. A faulty electrical relay could overheat, trigger multiple short circuits, and in worse cases, cause a fire inside the lining of the aircraft. She grabbed her emergency intercom. "Captain, this is Claire. We have continuing abnormal noise from the lower galley compartment. Requesting permission to access the maintenance hatch." There was a silence. Then the captain responded. "Permission granted. Do it carefully." Claire nodded, unlocked the small maintenance latch, and slowly lifted it. A burst of warm air escaped, far too warm for a closed compartment. "Oh no," Claire whispered. Inside, a secondary electrical relay was glowing, faint orange, dangerously hot. It was minutes from melting, minutes from igniting insulation wiring, and the plane still had 2 hours before landing. "Maya," Claire whispered, "you were right again." Passengers nearby had now noticed. Anxiety rippled through the cabin as whispers turned into worried murmurs. "Is something wrong? Why's she opening panels? Is the plane okay?" Maya felt their eyes on her, but she didn't care. She cared only about stopping this from getting worse. The co-pilot appeared from the cockpit, rushing down the aisle. He knelt beside the hatch. "Good call," he muttered. "If this overheats, we lose multiple systems," Claire added softly. "And with the storm ahead..." Maya's head jerked up. "Storm?" "Yes," the co-pilot said. "There's a severe weather system forming along our flight path. We're adjusting altitude to avoid it." A storm. Electrical problems. High altitude. This was the worst possible combination. The co-pilot pulled out a thermal suppressor, a device used to cool hot components. But as he lowered it, the plane lurched violently. Passengers screamed. Bags fell. Lights flickered. The suppressor slipped from his hand, rolling away down the aisle. The plane jolted again, harder this time. The overhead bins rattled. A baby cried. Someone shouted a prayer. Maya grabbed the co-pilot's arm. "You need to stabilize the relay now." "We're trying," he shouted back, gripping the panel edges. But the turbulence got worse, much worse. Lightning flashed outside the windows, brilliant white streaks, illuminating the cabin. Thunder rumbled through the aircraft's body, making the metal vibrate. The captain's voice came over the speakers, shaking slightly. "All passengers, fasten your seatbelts immediately. Cabin crew, take your jump seats." The co-pilot looked torn. "Stay here and fix the overheating relay, or return to the cockpit to assist with the storm." He looked at Maya, a terrified 15-year-old, but the only one who had sensed every problem so far. "You stay seated," he said. "Let us handle it." But as he turned, the plane dropped sharply, like falling off a cliff. People screamed. The co-pilot stumbled. Claire grabbed the overhead handle to avoid falling. And Maya? She held onto the open hatch, her eyes wide, staring into the glowing relay. Something inside her clicked. Her fear wasn't paralyzing anymore. It was guiding her, telling her what to do. "Maya!" Claire shouted. "Stay back!" But Maya reached into the emergency kit beside the panel, pulled out a thermal patch, and without thinking, she pressed it onto the overheating relay. A hiss of steam, a flash of light, a burst of heat. Her hand trembled violently, but she didn't let go. "Maya, stop!" Claire cried. "You'll burn yourself." "I'm fine," Maya yelled. "It's cooling." The turbulence surged again, but the relay's orange glow dimmed, then faded, then stabilized into a safe temperature. Maya collapsed backward, breathing heavily. The co-pilot exhaled deeply, stunned. "You just prevented a fire," he whispered. The plane steadied. The cabin lights brightened. Passengers stared at the young girl, the one who was terrified of flying, but kept them alive. But the storm outside was far from over, and Maya had no idea that the captain was about to call her to the cockpit. For something far more dangerous, because the worst part of this flight was still ahead. The storm raged outside like the sky was tearing apart. Lightning flashed, so close it felt like the aircraft was flying inside a glowing web of electricity. Each burst illuminated the entire cabin, rows of tense faces, trembling hands, and wide, frightened eyes. But Maya sat still, not because she wasn't scared. She was terrified. But something had changed inside her. Her fear no longer froze her. It focused her. Claire knelt beside her, gently checking her hand where she had pressed the thermal patch. "You okay, sweetheart?" Claire asked softly. Maya nodded. I'm fine, I think. The co-pilot rushed back to the cockpit, grabbing the overhead rail to keep his balance as the aircraft shook violently. Before leaving, he looked at Maya with a mixture of shock and respect, like he was seeing someone far older than 15. Minutes passed. The turbulence grew worse. The aircraft felt like it was being lifted and dropped by invisible hands. Passengers held onto armrests. A baby cried uncontrollably. A man whispered prayers in desperation. Through the chaos, one voice suddenly echoed over the intercom. Maya, this is Captain Reynolds. Could you please come to the cockpit? Gasps rippled through the cabin. Eyes turned toward her, shock, disbelief, and even hope. Claire looked stunned. Maya, he wants you in the cockpit. Maya's mother grabbed her hand. No, she's just a child. Why would they? But Maya already knew why. She felt it. She sensed the plane wasn't reacting normally. Something bigger was happening, bigger than a relay or turbulence. I have to go, she whispered. Her mother hesitated, then nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. Be careful, baby. Claire escorted her through the aisle as the plane shuddered again. Oxygen masks swaying slightly from the ceiling. People watched Maya like she was walking toward destiny. She reached the cockpit door. It slid open for her. Inside, the small space was filled with flashing warnings, blinking lights, and the sound of constant alarms. Captain Reynolds turned toward her, sweat on his forehead, jaw tight with stress. Maya, he said, trying to steady his voice, I need your help. Her breath caught. Me? Yes, he said firmly. You saw things before our instruments did. You felt the relay problem before we could detect it. You reacted when the turbulence knocked my co-pilot off balance. He paused. You have a sense for what's happening. And right now, we need that. Maya stepped closer, heart pounding. What's wrong, sir? The captain pointed at a display flashing red. Autopilot failure. Pitch control unstable. Manual override required. Lightning flashed again, shaking the cockpit. We lost part of our pitch control during the storm, he explained. The relay you helped cool was connected to multiple stabilizer circuits. We fixed the heat thanks to you, but the system is damaged. The co-pilot added, we can still fly manually, but the stabilizer is acting slow. The plane isn't responding the way it should. As if to prove it, the nose of the aircraft dipped suddenly. Maya grabbed the back of the captain's seat as her stomach lurched. The captain steadied the controls. It's okay. I've got it. But his voice wasn't confident. Not fully. Maya studied the panel, rows of blinking lights. Dials shifting rapidly, data changing too fast. But among all the chaos, her eyes locked onto one thing. As vibrating meter needle, just like the vibration she felt earlier. Not steady, not synchronized, not normal. She pointed instantly. That meter. Look at the oscillation. It's not responding with the throttle. It's delayed. The captain looked. The co-pilot looked. The captain exhaled. She's right. That's a secondary stabilizer lag, the co-pilot muttered. If it drops too far, we'll lose control of the nose. Maya swallowed hard. What can I do? The captain turned to her fully. You can tell us what you feel before the instruments catch up. She blinked. What I feel with my body? Yes, he said. You caught the vibration long before these sensors did. You felt the heat before we saw the warning. You're sensitive to the plane's movement in a way most people aren't. Maya hesitated, then nodded. The captain placed her gently in the observer seat, the third cockpit seat behind the pilot's. Close your eyes, he said. Tell us every change you sense. Maya closed them. Her hands rested on the seat. Her body leaned slightly forward. At first, she heard only alarms, but slowly, there it was. A tiny dip, a faint sway, a slight acceleration in downward pitch. Captain, she whispered, eyes still closed. It's dropping. Left side, nose slowly, tilting down more than the right. The captain reacted instantly, adjusting the control yoke. The plane steadied. The alarms softened. The co-pilot paused, stunned. She felt that. Before the system updated, lightning struck nearby. Brilliant. Blinding light exploding outside the cockpit windows. The plane jerked. But Maya was ready. Right side! Stabilizer lagging, she cried. The captain corrected again. seconds before the instrument actually displayed the warning. For 10 minutes, long, terrifying minutes, Maya guided the pilots through. Turbulence so violent it felt like the sky was trying to crack open the aircraft. And she was doing it while trembling, while terrified, while still afraid of flying. But she kept going. Then finally, the storm began to calm. The clouds thinned. The lightning faded. The aircraft leveled slightly. Alarm stopped. The captain exhaled in relief. That was the worst of it. Maya opened her eyes slowly. They looked tired, but brave. "You did it," the co-pilot said. "You helped us keep this plane under control." The captain smiled, genuinely. "You saved us again, Maya." But before she could answer, a new warning blinked across the screen. A new tone sounded. A new message flashed. "Low fuel. Diversion required." Maya stared at it. The captain's face hardened. They had survived the storm, but the detour, turbulence, and manual flying had burned far more fuel than expected. They didn't have enough to reach their destination. "Maya," the captain said quietly, looking at her with a mixture of respect and worry. "I'm afraid this isn't over yet." The cockpit went silent, except for one sound. "Low fuel! Low fuel! Low fuel!" The red warning pulsed like a heartbeat. Captain Reynolds stared at it, jaw tight. The co-pilot whispered, This is not good." Maya felt the tension instantly. "Captain, what does low fuel mean? Are we in danger?" He turned to her gently. "We have enough fuel for about 25 minutes, maybe less. The storm forced us off course, and manual flying burns fuel faster. 25 minutes. Thousands of feet in the sky, hundreds of passengers, and no airport in sight." The co-pilot quickly checked maps. Nearest diversion, Clearwater Airfield. Small runway, old, one operational strip. Captain Reynolds frowned. "That runway wasn't meant for an aircraft this size." "But it's the only option," the co-pilot said. The plane shook slightly as it descended out of the storm clouds. The turbulence was lighter now, but the threat was bigger. Maya tightened her seat harness in the cockpit observer seat. "What do we do now?" The captain breathed deeply. "Now, Maya, we try something extremely difficult. We land a heavy aircraft on a runway designed for smaller jets, and we do it with unstable stabilizers," the co-pilot added. "And low fuel," Maya whispered. Captain Reynolds nodded slowly. "Yes, but we're alive because of you. And I'm not giving up now." He pushed the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We will be diverting to a nearby airfield due to technical issues. Please stay calm and keep your seatbelts fastened." Passengers fell silent. But the fear was clear. Mothers hugged their children. People held hands. Maya closed her eyes for a moment, steadying her breathing. Not long ago, she was terrified of flying. Now she was helping land a plane. The clouds broke open, revealing land below, patches of fields, small towns, winding rivers, and finally a runway. A short one. Too short. Maya gasped quietly. "Captain, it's tiny." "I know," he said. "But it's all we've got." As the plane angled toward the descent, the stabilizer lag returned. Not as strong as before, but enough to sway the aircraft. Maya gently placed her hand on the cockpit frame. "I feel it again. Left side. Slightly dipping." The captain corrected immediately. "You're incredible," he said softly. "Keep telling me everything." The aircraft descended through thinner clouds. The runway grew closer, but so did the challenge. The co-pilot checked fuel. "Captain, we have 12 minutes left." Maya's heart sank. There was no chance for a second attempt. This landing had to be perfect. The runway lights flickered in the distance. The plane aligned with the approach path, but a crosswind swept across the wings, pushing the aircraft sideways. "Crosswind!" the co-pilot shouted. The aircraft tilted. Passengers screamed. Maya felt it instantly, before the instruments even blinked. "Captain, right side, wind push, correct 5 degrees. He did. The plane stabilized. The captain looked back at her, amazed. "You're reading the sky better than my sensors." But the danger wasn't over. Another gust slammed the aircraft. The nose dipped too far. "Pitch drop! Pitch drop!" Maya shouted. The captain pulled up gently, not too much, not too little. Just enough. The runway lights rushed toward them. Speed? The captain asked. Perfect, the co-pilot said. Touchdown in 15 seconds, passengers cried. Prayed, held their breath. Maya gripped the seat. The plane descended. Lower, lower, lower. Until, thump, the wheels hit the runway. But too far down the strip. They were running out of runway, fast. Brakes! The co-pilot yelled. The captain slammed the brakes. Reverse thrust roared. The aircraft shook violently as it fought to slow down. But the end of the runway rushed toward them. Faster. Faster. Too fast. No, we won't stop in time, the captain muttered. Maya saw the fence at the runway's end growing larger by the second. She couldn't think. She just felt. The stabilizer. The drag. The remaining force. Captain, angle 2 degrees up, she screamed. That will lift us, the co-pilot yelled. No, Maya said firmly. It will give you drag. Slow us down more. The captain didn't hesitate. He trusted her. He lifted the nose just slightly, just enough. The added aerodynamic drag slowed the aircraft dramatically. More, more, more. The fence came closer. The wheels screeched. Smoke puffed from the tires. The plane shuddered. And then it stopped, just 14 meters before the fence. Silence. Then someone in the cabin sobbed loudly. Then another. Then applause, shaky, emotional. Overwhelming applause that filled the entire plane. The co-pilot leaned back in his seat, shaking his head in disbelief. Maya, you just helped land a 70-ton aircraft. Captain Reynolds turned toward her. He didn't smile because this wasn't a small thing. He looked at her the way someone looks at a true hero. Maya, you didn't just save us once, he said quietly. You saved us again. And again. And again. Tears filled her eyes. I was so scared. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing despite the fear. And today, you were the bravest person on this plane. Maya finally allowed herself to breathe. Really breathe. Passengers began filing out, many stopping to thank her, some crying, some whispering prayers, some simply holding her hands. A woman said softly, "You saved my son." A man added, "You're a miracle, child." Maya wasn't sure what to say. She still felt like that scared girl during takeoff. But today, she discovered something inside herself. Courage she never knew she had. As she stepped out of the plane into the sunlight, Captain Reynolds walked beside her. "You're always welcome in my cockpit," he said with a smile. And for the first time in her life, Maya looked up at the sky and didn't feel fear. She felt hope.